Hi everyone, very good evening. So first of all, I would like to welcome you all for a webinar from Business Toys. So I just want to make clear, is my voice is clear and loud for all of you? Can you hear my voice clearly without any disturbance? So please do comment it as yes if my voice is clear and loud. Okay, that's great. So then let us start our today's webinar. So first of all, once again, I would like to welcome you all to this particular webinar. So here we'll be specifically focusing on, the actual aspects of a data science project lifecycle. So my name is Manikanta Prasad. So I'm a vice president and a lead data scientist for Business Toys, who handles specifically a lot of data science projects, and my expertise are into specifically machine learning as well as analytics approach. So going ahead, so today we would be going through understanding the complete data science project life cycle. So how it happens and what are the things which as a data scientist we usually take care of in when it comes to a project life cycle. So we will be going through understanding each and every stage one by one. So the first thing which I would like to ask you people before starting our webinar. So how many of you here are completely new for this data science field? So can you just comment it as yes, if at all, if you are completely new for this particular data science field where you are looking to, start something into data science. So is there someone like that here? Anybody? Okay, that's great. So I just want to know how many of you already have certain idea regarding this particular field. So is there anybody who has, a bit of an idea, like what is data science, what happens there? Anybody as such? Is there someone like that? Can you please comment it as yes? Okay, very good. Okay, so I can see like Gairik Chakraborty says he has bit of an idea. Jim says yes, he has a bit of an idea. Very good. Okay, so in this today's webinar, so those people who are completely new and those people who have a bit of an idea. So here I would like to make a complete ideology. I would like to give you a complete ideology upon what exactly happens in data science project. So what all things you, if at all, if you happen to become a data scientist tomorrow or to make a career of a data scientist tomorrow, so what all things you have to take care. So we will be going one by one today. To start with, so when we talk about a data science project, so let's assume that you are a data scientist. So where does your work starts? So that is where the point you should always start with. So at what point your work starts? So always your work will begin with something like analyzing the business problem. So always please do keep in your mind that whenever you have certain business problem, so that is when majorly companies look for data scientists. So in order to overcome those business problems and scale their businesses. So when we talk about business problems, what sort of a business problems do you think could usually business have? Can someone just think and comment over the comment section? When we say a business problem, what do you think could be a business problem? So what sort of problems do you think could businesses or companies usually face? So any sort of a problem which you people think could be called as a business problem? Anybody? What according to you, which comes to your mind when you hear about business problem? Can you comment it? Sales prediction, very good. So one of the business problem could be sales prediction, where companies may think about how we can increase the sales of the company. So what are the measures which we have to take in order to increase the sales of the company? That's pretty good. So I have another answer which says the situation where the company has to predict the outcome of an action. Example, price deduction. Very good. So there could be a lot of such business problems, like how to increase the customer base, how to scale the business to the next level, or how to identify a particular risk which is associated in a particular process. So all of these could be a business problem. So whenever there is a business problem which arrives, that is where, as a data scientist, our work starts, or the companies try to approach a data scientist. So if at all, if they start approaching you with a certain business problem, you as a data scientist, what all things you have to take care? First of all, you should understand the business. What are they into? What are the kind of risks they are usually facing? Who are their target customers? What sort of product or a service are they providing? So you should understand every inch of a business in order to address the business problem. So this will play a very crucial role. If you understand the business very well, you will be able to reach out or approach to that business problem in a very good manner. So once you understand what is their businesses, so what is the next thing which may come? So the next thing, you have to meet their stakeholders and you have to discuss in order to get better insight about the business, because every stakeholder will have their own view regarding the business or regarding the processes. So once you meet such people and once you discuss regarding the business, you will get a lot of information which can be used in order to analyze the business problem which is there. So once you meet up all these people and once you get a overview of what is this business, next you should also understand what are their expectation. So if at all, if a company is having a business problem and if they approach you as a data scientist to solve their problem, what are they expecting from you? So if at all, if these are the expectation from those people, so how you are going to start your approach, or how you are going to like take your next process ahead in order to start analyzing the business problem. So these are the first stage which you should make clear. That is entire business problem, including all of these sub points which I have mentioned. You should go through each and everything. So let's say in the stage one, once you are completely aware of this entire business problem, so what comes next? So the next procedure, or in the next stage, we can call it as data collection. So, as you all know, nowadays, a lot of businesses, whenever they are going to take any sort of a decision making, so data plays a very crucial part. So, usually, a lot of companies run with something known as data driven approach. So, in that case, I would like to ask you people. So, let's say, for example, if at all, if you have understood the entire business problem and now you have gone to the next stage of data collection, what are the ways in order to collect the data? Can someone think and tell me what are the different procedures or what are the different ways through which you can collect a relevant data in such a way that you can use that data to analyze it? Very good answer. I have one answer, like survey forms. Very good. You can create a survey forms. You can ask people to fill those forms, and whatever data you get collected from there, you can use it for your data analysis. That's brilliant. So you're saying Kaggle, but not all the time Kaggle data would be so relevant to your business problem. So your business problem could be something unique where the data which you find in Kaggle may not support it. So at that time, always you have to, collect some original data from, a specific source. So I have another answer, like database maintained from the company. That's brilliant, Chakrabarti. So usually a lot of times, you can approach the company itself, because all the companies maintains their database, be it in terms of employee database or customer database or sales database. So you can approach them and they can provide you the required data. So when we talk about such data collection process, always we start with the process of collecting a raw data. So when you say a raw data will be completely kind of an unstructured data. So when we say unstructured data, it may so happen that they give you some data, but there is no meaningful information in that. So whenever a data is not containing any sort of meaningful information, such data, we call it as a raw data. So usually at an initial stage, this is what you will get. So once you get that, you have to try to search some relevant information which you can get from that particular data. So that relevant information should automatically link or connect to the business problem which you are looking for. It should not happen that you have a different business problem and the data which you have obtained is completely different without any connection between them. It should never be like that. Whenever you're collecting the data, it should have certain information at least regarding your business problem or what you're trying to achieve. So apart from this, I got an answer like, collecting the data from the databases. So you can use a lot of like database servers, or companies may give you certain access to their database servers where you can collect the relevant information which you want in order to address the business problem. So let's say in the second stage, you have collected the data. So now that you know what is the business problem, what are their expectation from you, and for that, now let's say you have a data with you. Okay, you have a data. So your task will be to analyze that data, understand what is happening, and then to give them the relevant option, like expectations or relevant solution for their business problem. So in that similar course, so let us see where does the next stage goes. So once the data is collected, the next thing we call it as data pre-processing stage. So when we talk about data pre-processing, anybody, any idea, what do you mean by this pre-processing? So, as soon as you collect a data, if someone is saying like data pre-processing, so what do you mean by your data pre-processing? Any idea, anybody? What do you feel? You can just put it in a comment box. What according to you could be a data pre-processing? What may happen in this particular stage? Data cleaning, that's brilliant. So you may have to, clean the data, or any other options, anybody? What comes in pre-processing? When you say pre-process, so what do you mean by that pre-process? What are you supposed to do for that data in that pre-process stage? Okay, cleaning the data, take out the empty data, that's brilliant. So let us see what exactly happens here. Now, usually, if you see in the previous stage of data collection, I said the data which you can collect could be a raw data, which is completely unstructured without any proper information in it. So, in this particular stage of pre-processing, we will try to convert that raw data, or we will try to convert that unstructured data into a structured form so that we can get some meaningful information from that particular data. So in order to do all that, we call that particular stage as data pre-processing. So what all things usually come here? So let us understand one by one. First thing is data cleaning. So, data cleaning, again, it is a procedure of, like converting an unstructured data into a structured form where you can actually get access to a lot of meaningful information in that. So apart from that, so we also perform something known as exploratory data analysis. Now, what is this exploratory data analysis basically? So exploratory data analysis is a procedure where you will get into the data and understand the structure of the data, what informations are given in that, and using that information, what sort of analysis you can think about doing. So that procedure is called as exploratory data analysis. So what all basically you try to do here? So basically, when you start exploring what is there in the data, first thing you will come across certain missing values. Lot many times it may so happen that the data which is given either by your client or you collect from the survey, there could be a lot of information which could be missing. So all those missing element in the data are called as missing values, okay, in the data. So if at all, if you have such missing values in the data, you will always have to take care of it, because a data with some missing information will never give you the required, output in the later. So always it is very, very crucial to handle that. So apart from that, there are still certain techniques in exploratory data analysis, like you'll have to undergo something known as descriptive statistics. Now, what is this descriptive statistics? Basically, it gives you the statistical form of a particular data. It helps you to understand the distribution in the data basically. Apart from that, there is something known as outlier treatment. So you'll have to check whether there are any outliers in the data. If at all, if there are any outliers, these outliers are very much harmful for your further research or for your further process. So if at all, if there are any such outliers in this particular data, you will have to clean or treat those outliers. And also, apart from this, there is something known as data visualization. Now, this is one of the very, very important part of data pre-processing, because through visualizations, when you plot a lot of graphs and charts, you will get to understand the data better. So going ahead, when I actually show you a implementation of a project, you will actually understand how this particular data visualization plays a key role in understanding the data. So with this, we also perform something known as feature engineering. Now, this feature engineering is a kind of a procedure where whenever we are approaching a particular problem, there'll be a lot of informations which will be given in terms of a variable. So variable is nothing but lot of columns which are available in the data. So let's say the information of a data is about 20 columns. There are around 20 columns in which multiple variables of information is given to us. So in order to address our business problem, this feature engineering technique helps us to decide, do we need all these 20 column of information, or do we need all these 20 variables in order to address our business problem, or are there any sort of a column or a particular variable which is totally irrelevant for our business problem. So if at all, if there are any such irrelevant information, this feature engineering technique will help you to rectify that and will help you to eliminate that. So instead of having irrelevant information in your data, it helps you to eliminate those kind of information. So that we do it in your feature engineering technique. And finally, coming to something known as a relationship study. Basically, in this particular stage, we study what is the relationship between variables. Are there any relation? How, what is the association between the variables or the columns, the data which we have there? Is there any connection between one variable and the other? Is there any relation, or like what sort of a relation, whether they have a positive relation, whether they have a negative relation, what sort of a association they have? So you will have to study all of this. So this particular stage, that is data pre-processing, is one of the very, very crucial stage which will actually help you to understand and to get the better result. If at all, if someone is failing to know, if at all, if someone is not able to do this data pre-processing technique properly, it may affect in large for your final results. So that is the reason this particular stage is very, very crucial. Usually in data science project, or in a life cycle, basically all the stages whatever you have. So if at all, if all this, if at all, if you have to consider which is one of the very, very important among all the stages, data pre-processing is one stage which is very, very important. So you should be very, very careful while dealing with this particular stage. Almost as a data scientist, you will at least spend 60 to 70% of your time only in data pre-processing. So just imagine what will be the importance of it. In the entire project, 60 to 70% of your time will straight away go to data pre-processing only, or you'll have to give your that much of time only in this particular stage. So much of understanding you have to do in order to go ahead with the further analysis. So in that particular constant, or in context, you can understand this as one of the very, very important stage under your project life cycle. So let's say once you have gone through all of this, okay, once you have gone through the data pre-processing, you have analyzed each and every stages there, you have understood the data better, and then comes something known as model building. This is where, let's say if at all, if you have a problem statement, like you have to predict something. So let's say if you have to predict the customer, whether a particular customer is going to buy your product or not, or whether a particular customer would be a actual target customer for your business or not. Or let's say if I take a bank, okay, for example, bank industry. So you can build a predictive model, okay, which can actually predict whether a particular person will be purchasing our particular service or a bank product or not. So a lot of predictions can be made in this particular stage. So after your data pre-processing, once your data is completely understood with all the data cleaning, all your visualization, relationship study, everything, then you enter into this particular stage. So in this particular stage, majorly, you will try to build the model. So you'll try to build the model. So that is, you will try to train the model and try to validate it. So how is the model usually giving us the output, or how the model is trying to give us the desired income, desired output, basically in terms of process. So you'll try to understand all that. And specifically, when you come here, this is where you use something known as machine learning. So machine learning is a particular aspect or a part of your data science where you do a lot of predictive modelings. You build a lot of algorithms. So there you decide, something known as, you have something like regression based algorithms for a specific kind of a data or a particular kind of a problem statement. You have to use those specific algorithms particularly. If it is a regression based problems, you will have to understand, or you will have to go through regression based algorithms for doing the prediction. If it is a classification based problem, you will have to go through classification based algorithms in machine learning in order to build the predictive model there. So you'll have to decide what sort of a problem statement you are dealing with. Upon that, you have to decide what sort of a model you are going to build here. So that model will actually play a very key role in doing a lot of predictions for your particular data. So this happens in this particular stage of model build. So once, let's say that you have built a model, okay, once you have built a model, then what next? Then it comes something known as evaluation. Now, this evaluation always evaluates the model which you have built in the previous stage. So usually as I said, the model building is a stage which helps you to do a lot of predictions. But if at all, if your model is making a prediction, obviously there should be something which will validate it. Just blindly, you cannot, like believe upon whatever predictions your model is making. There should be some criteria, or there should be some parameter which actually tells you that whether these predictions are right or wrong. Can we trust these predictions, or can't we not trust these predictions? Whatever predictions your model is build, giving you, so how do you actually validate it? So all that validation can be done in this particular stage called model evaluation. So once after your model building, you'll come to evaluation. There are certain techniques of evaluating your model. So there are multiple techniques, like you have to check for bias and variance in the model. You'll have to go for cross validation technique, which validates your model in much better manner. You have something like hyperparameter tuning. So this helps in increasing the accuracy of your model. So this helps in increasing the correctness of the prediction in your model. So you'll have to check, is there any way I can improve the prediction which is made by the model into a better manner? So also there is something known as time complexity. So this is one of the crucial procedure where whenever a model is trying to do the prediction, it should try to do the entire prediction in a very very limited amount of time. It should not take too much of processing time usually. So you'll have to check, because each and every machine learning algorithm which you try to use, so they have their own time which they take in executing the entire model. So you'll have to check which algorithm is trying to take the least time in order to execute and in order to process and give you the final result. You'll have to evaluate each and everything. So this evaluation, or this particular stage of model evaluation, will actually help you whether to decide to keep this model, or whether to decide whether this model which you have built, or the predictive model which you have built, whether it is good or bad. So this will help you decide that. So let's say, for example, after you have come through so long or so many different stages, now let's say once after evaluating your model which you have built, if at all, if it is giving you a green signal to go ahead, if all the evaluation procedures is giving you a good idea of what is this, like how is the output of this model. So what could be the next thing? Basically, next thing, it always goes to something known as model deployment. This is the last stage basically. So in this model deployment, you will try to deploy the model in real time, where this model will go for a direct production stage, where the client who would have given you the problem, they will, for them you will be giving you, for them you are going to give this model, so that they can use this model and analyze their, like address their business problem, and they can utilize this for betterment of their business processes. So usually, when it comes to model deployment, your client will actually use the daily obtained data. He will use that data, he'll run into this model so that the model will do the prediction and he'll automatically take that. So that is how on a daily basis, your client will actually use this model at his place basically, in order to address or in order to do a lot of predictions. So in order to do this, basically, the deployment stage specifically, this is the last stage of your data science project life cycle. So for some bigger, for some of the smaller applications, okay, if your model application is very small, we use something known as Flask. Whereas if your model application is kind of bigger, we use this Django for deployment purposes. So when you go for deployment purpose, so this is where you deploy the model which you have built on a real time upon a particular website of your particular client or a customer, where they try to use that model on a daily basis. Whereas there is a constraint here. Now, what is that constraint? So coming back to the stage of model evaluation, okay, the stage of model evaluation here, I said the model, okay, the model evaluation process will tell you how the model building has happened. How is the prediction made by your predictive model? So it will tell you whether this model prediction is happening well or the model prediction is not happening well. So my question to you people is, just think, let's say in the fourth stage, you will build a model. The model is giving you the prediction. But when you come to the fifth stage, that is model evaluation, let's say the model evaluation process tells you that whatever this model is predicting, we cannot rely upon this. This is not a good model. So in that stage, if at all, when you come to the fifth stage, and if your model evaluation technique tells you that whatever you have predicted, if at all, if the predictions are not good, so if your evaluation technique is saying that you cannot rely upon this model, you guys tell me, what are you going to do? Can we go to the deployment stage? Obviously not, because the evaluation technique is telling that the model itself is not good. So if at all, if you are at that stage where your evaluation technique is saying that whatever model you have built, it is not at all good or it is not at all right, what are you going to do in that particular stage? Can someone think and answer? You would be able to go to the final stage only if model evaluation gives you a green signal that whatever you have built is right. But whereas, if at all, if your model evaluation stage is not allowing or not accepting the model if you which you have built, and if you are on that particular stage, what are you going to do? So can someone think and give me an answer in the comment box? If you are at that stage, what are you going to do? Retrace back to the model and modify. Okay, very good answer. You will have to retrace, or see, usually what happens is, like, all the time you cannot expect that every time you build a model the evaluation will always be good. There could be sometimes where the evaluation may completely reject the model which you have built. If at all, if the evaluation is rejecting your model, if it is not accepting, you cannot go to the next level, that is model deployment. So in that case, what you have to do, again, you have to go back to the square one. That is, like, again, you have to go back to your data collection process. Now, this is where you should understand clearly what is the reason why my model is, I'm not able to evaluate the model, or whatever predictions which I have made, why it has not been accepted by my model evaluation. So always the problem could be in multiple stage. Like maybe the data which you have collected, maybe if it is not if it is not sufficient, because of which you are not able to get the relevant output which your client is expecting. So maybe you have to go back to the stage of data collection, try to check all the data whatever you have collected, are they getting, like, are they relevant enough or are they not relevant? If at all, if you feel that any data, if it is not relevant, you'll have to again do the data collection process. So if not this, then again you'll have to come to data pre-processing. There could be lot many other times that your exploratory data analysis may not wouldn't have been done properly, or the data cleaning process, if you would have made some mistakes, or if you would have missed out some particular things here, so it may not give you the desired output. So you'll have to once again cross check it, and like that the procedure always continues. So always this tries to keep on continuing entirely, so until and unless your model evaluation gives you a green signal for going ahead. So until and unless your model evaluation gives you a good sign so that you can go ahead, you have to once again go back to the same procedure of your data collection. You have to again do the same procedure once again. So this is the entire cycle. So in this entire process, as I said, in this entire 6 stages, almost, as I said, 60 to 70% of your time will always go in data pre-processing, because the effective way you try to do your data pre-processing, that will decide the model performance. So the model which you build, so your data pre-processing will always impact your model performance in that particular stage. So that is how basically it would be. So this is the overall overview of project life cycle. Now, before going to show you, like, I'm going to show you, or I'm going to demonstrate an overview of how a project is, particularly, performed. So before going there, I would like to ask you people, like, do you have any questions in any of these stages? If you have, you can ask me, so that I would like to make it clear. Then we can go ahead for actually looking at the demonstration of a model which is implemented, basically how a project of a data science is actually implemented. I'll show you in brief. So before going there, anybody has any question here, you can ask me. Please put your question in the comment box so that I'll read your question and I'll try to answer your question. So anybody has any question in any of these stages, please do ask me. So I'll give you around 10 seconds of time. Just have a look at each and every stage. So if you have any questions in any of the stages, please ask me. So we have Anshu. So Anshu, any questions do you have? Prachi, do you have any questions? Jim, any questions from your end? Soundarya, if you have any questions, you can clarify. Chakrabarti, do you have any questions here in understanding these stages? Okay, so others, anybody? Okay. Now, so if this is good, okay, if this is fine, like probably by now you would have got a brief idea. Now, the same brief idea, I would like to, like take you through a live demonstration of a model, like how basically it will be built. So for that, let me share my screen of an application. Just a moment. Okay, let me share my screen. Yes. Okay. So I have been sharing my screen of my Jupyter notebook. So just do let me know if my Jupyter notebook screen is visible, all of you. Just please do comment it if as yes, if it is visible. Is my screen visible, all of you? Okay. Let us go ahead. Now, let us try to implement a particular model here. Let us try to work on a particular data or a problem statement, basically. So we'll try to understand how the implementation part usually happens. So for this, I have taken a Jupyter notebook and I'll be explaining you how basically each and every step happens. So for those who are already familiar with Jupyter notebook, it would be like you would be able to understand all these commands which I have written. But for those who are very new, you don't have to worry, but still you will be able to understand it. So in the first stage, basically I have to like implement, or I have to load all the necessary libraries for working on a particular problem statement or for working on a data. So I have just executed all the codes or all the libraries which will be essential for me in working upon this particular problem statement. So I'm just loading it. So my all the codes are getting executed. So now once my code is executed, now as I said, first thing is like always your data science project life cycle starts with understanding a problem statement. So firstly, I'll tell you what is this problem statement. So just imagine that you are having a particular car showroom. Okay. So let's say, for example, you have a car showroom and you're a owner of a car showroom. Now, every day customers are coming onto your showroom and they are looking at the vehicles which you have. They are like discussing a lot of in order to get a lot of information about a particular vehicle or the specification of the vehicle. And you have certain customer executives who are working in the showroom who would try to give complete information about a particular vehicle. At the end of the day, if at all, if they like it, they will buy it, or if they don't like it, they will not buy it. So this is the situation which is happening around you. So let's say, for example, you wanted to, you started thinking that usually when a customer walks in, you cannot tell whether that particular customer would be a genuine customer of buying my bike, or whether that customer is just a window shopper who has just come only to take the information about our product. Usually identifying that will be very difficult, right? Whenever a customer walks in, even though if you speak to them, it will be difficult for you, to finally decide whether this customer is going to buy my particular product or buy my particular vehicle or not. So what came to your mind is you got a thought that how can I do a prediction in such a way that I can build a predictive model, or can I have a predictive model which will try to predict if at all if a customer walks into a showroom, so can I predict whether he or she is going to purchase this my particular vehicle or not? This is what kind of a thought which came into your mind. So I'll repeat once again. So the thought which came into your mind is, as soon as a customer walks in, you thought of predicting that whether this particular customer, before even talking to him or her, can you predict whether this particular customer is going to like purchase your vehicle or not? So this is what a kind of thought which came into your mind. So after getting this kind of a thought that you wanted to predict whether a customer is going to purchase your product or not, so you consulted a data scientist. Now you discuss the same thing. So as usual, once this problem statement is conveyed to the data scientist, so he would like to like completely understand your business, who are your customers and everything. And he will start his work. Basically, after understanding the business problem, next is like the data scientist needs a particular data so that he can go through the data, understand and do whatever your expectation is. So he'll ask you for a data. So what you will do is you will collect the data of those customers who have come to your showroom. So you'll collect certain information about those customers and you'll try to give it. Now, let's say we are those data scientists. We have got this particular problem, like business problem from our client. Like, let's say they are asking us to predict whether a customer will purchase my vehicle or not. So let's say they have provided you the data also. So let's assume this is your, data which is there. Now just have a look at the data. Now, this is the information which they have collected. Now, what all information they have collected inside this? They have collected what is the age of a customer, what is the gender, what occupation they are having, like what is a phone type, whether which type of a phone they are using, what sort of a bike which they had, like do they have a bike, if at all, if they have a bike, what sort of a cc related bike do they have, like what is their relationship status, and finally what is the response, like did they purchase the particular vehicle ultimately or did they not purchase. So let's say these information have been given to you. Now your role or your task is to start the data pre-processing, where you will have to understand the data very, very well. After understanding the data, you have to go to the further stages of your project life cycle and do one by one. Now here in this particular stage, so specifically there are certain things which could be out of scope. The reason is like I cannot specifically execute each and every terms which I discussed on my PPT, because there are certain things which you should be having certain prior knowledge on that. But still here I'll try to give you a complete overview of how major things will be done. So let's assume now that your client has given you the data, the problem statement which you have to solve with this particular data, or the business problem which you have to address is, you need to build a predictive model which tries to predict whether a particular customer is going to purchase the bike or not. So in that particular case, you'll go to the next stage, that is of data pre-processing stage. So what all things you will try to check here? First thing is like you will try to check the data types which they have. So the data will be of different types. Basically, it could be integer, it could be float, it could be string, it could be an object. So checking what type of a data type is very, very essential, because going ahead when you are doing certain procedures, so if at all, if a data is in a particular form of a type, it may not support. So in that case, you may have to change it. So in order to change that, it is good that you know what different data types you are dealing with. So then, once this is done, okay, so then comes your data cleaning stage. So in this data cleaning stage, the first thing we'll check for is whether there are any missing values here. So there could be some missing values in the sense there could be some information which could be completely not available or missing. Let's say, for example, for the second customer, assume that if they have not mentioned what occupation they are with, or if at all, let's say if the particular customer, if they have not mentioned their age at all. So if there are certain information, if it is not available, such information we call it as a missing value or data, like incomplete information which is there in the data. So we have to check whether are there any such missing values which are available. So for this, I'll run a particular command here, so that this gives me a number. If at all, if there are any missing values, I'll easily get to know how many missing values are there in each and every single column which I have. So in this particular stage, there are no missing values in the particular data. But if at all, if it happens that you come across a missing value, there are certain techniques which you have to specifically follow in order to overcome those missing values. So you have to follow those things if at all, if you come such missing values. So in this particular case, as of now, we don't have any missing values, so we are good to go. Now, once this is done, as I said, we will perform something known as EDA. EDA is nothing but exploratory data analysis. If you can remember, I had specifically mentioned this under our subheading of data pre-processing. So in this exploratory data analysis, we will try to explore the data more in order to understand the data in statistical terms, and also with lot of visualization. We'll try to understand the data. So we'll try to see what all different stages we actually get. The first thing, we try to perform a descriptive statistics on a particular column called age. Now, age is called as basically it is like a continuous data which are in the form of numerical form. So for data, whichever you have in a numerical form, you perform descriptive statistics. Basically, it helps you to understand how the data is distributed in statistical terms. Now, how it will try to give us the information, let us understand. So it tries to give you what is the total count of the data. So the total customers details which we have is around 1005 and 18. So you have what is the average age of a customer who's coming to your store for buying. The average age is around 32. You have a standard deviation for that. What is the minimum age of a customer who's coming to your showroom? Those, like, what is the maximum age? So in this entire distribution, it talks about what is the 25% of your overall customers age, what is the 50% of your overall customers age, and what is the 75% of your overall customers age. So by looking at this, it will give you some better information which you can utilize to understand your data better. So in that stage, we use this descriptive statistics basically. So along with this, so in the descriptive statistics stage itself, so I was talking about outliers, if you can remember. So usually when it comes to outliers, we'll try to check the skewness there. Now, skewness is one particular topic. Basically, it may give you certain hint about outliers. So if at all, if it so happens that if at all, if there are outliers that may get detected in this particular skewness, basically. Now, in this particular data, as of now, it is having a moderate skewness. Basically, it is called as a moderate positively skewed. Okay, so how it is called moderately positively skewed, I cannot go in depth into a concept because of time constraint, but I'm trying to give you an overview here. So you'll have to check for what type of a skewness this data is having. So if at all, if the data is skewed, okay, if at all, if the data skewness value, if it is more than 1, okay, when you calculate this, if this value is more than 1, then that may directly impact on the predictions of your data. So I said you right, if at all in the model evaluation, if at all if the evaluation is not accepting your prediction, that means you would have done something wrong or something you would have missed. So if at all if the skewness value, if it is going beyond 1, then that will not give you the desired result in the prediction. So you'll have to take care of all of these things. Okay. So there is something known as kurtosis, which always also talks about the distribution basically. So I'll show you the visualization based distribution so that you'll understand it. So then comes your data visualization. You'll have to visualize each and everything for better understanding. So here we are trying to understand the distribution of age here. So for this, I'm plotting a histogram basically. Now this gives you an idea of how the age of the customers are distributed. Now you can see that age somewhere around 18. There are too many people who are with the age of 18 who are coming to your showroom for purchasing your particular vehicle. Like somewhere again around 22 till 25. These are the specific age groups which are more in number who are coming for purchasing your vehicle basically. So this gives you a better understanding. So always, as I said, your data visualization plays a very crucial role in giving you better insight towards your data. So this is how you would like to, or you should be looking at the data. Now this gives you an overview of what sort of age group people are coming onto our particular showroom for purchasing a vehicle. So followed by this, I also have a visualization to understand the gender, like what sort of customers are coming basically. Now you can see that out of total gender, so 53% of the customer who have visited your showroom are of male, whereas around 46% of the customers are of female. So again, this give you a better understanding what type of a customer are coming more. So you can see that almost, like though males are coming more to your showroom, but still it is almost kind of balanced. You cannot say like, only males are the people whom you should target. Basically, this also gives you an idea what sort of a target customer you can actually target. Whether your product is completely focused on a male customer or whether your product is completely focused on a female customer, this gives you a better idea there. Whereas in this case, since both are having almost equal amount of people or a population, so we can say like this, we can target it for both type of customers basically. Similarly, when we come to our occupation, so when we see our distribution of occupation, so who are the people who are actually concentrating on purchasing your vehicle? 46% of the population are of students who are specifically targeting your vehicle. Okay, so they are very much interested in your vehicle. After that, you can see that those people who are professionals are very much interested towards your particular product or a vehicle. Then you can also see that even unemployed people are also showing very much interest towards purchasing the product, and they have visited your website. So this gives you an understanding of what is the distribution of occupation, what sort of occupation based people are coming to your showroom searching for a particular product or a bike. So this gives you that understanding. So when it comes to your phone type, so this phone type basically gives you like what is their income level, how is their income level basically. Like majority of the people who are coming to your showroom are having a high end phone. If at all, if they are having a high end phone, somewhere it would hint that their income status could be somewhat better. Okay, it could somewhere hint that their income statement could be somewhat better. So you can target those people more in number, that is, you can target premium class customer more compared to other customer. Whereas other like middle class customers, or like low end customers, like those people who are using a low end phone, you can consider them as lower middle class basically. And these customers who are in the average, you can consider them as a middle class kind of a customer. So majority of the customers are upper class customers basically, who are coming onto your particular showroom. This gives you that understanding basically, followed by coming to current bike. So this gives us the information of what percentage of customers, whether they have bike, whether they don't have bike, or who are purchasing your particular product. So this gives you an overview of that. So somewhere around 27%, 27.7% of your customers are having a bike with a cc of 180 to 220 cc. They have this particular bike, and after having this, they have showed interest towards buying your particular vehicle. Similarly, around 13.9% of the people are like having a bike with a cc of 220 and above, but still they are showing an interest towards buying your bike. So this give you an overview of what sort of vehicle they already have or they possess. Even after having that, they are showing interest towards buying it basically. So that understanding will be obtained by here. So similarly, coming to relationship of the particular customer, so you can see that majority of the customers are single who are looking for your particular vehicle. So if not single, so the next highest group of customers would be, the people who are having a relationship which can be classified as complicated basically. So if at all, if their relationship status is complicated, those relationship status which are complicated also are showing interest towards purchasing your particular vehicle. Then comes your committed, and lastly you can see that married are the people who are very less in number. So this gives you an idea what sort of a target customer you should target for growing your business or improving your sales. So the main target should be of either single, like basically unmarried people. So those people unmarried, they can come under this single category or complicated category or even in committed category. So majority of the customers being this unmarried people, you can also understand that you should be targeting those unmarried people for selling your particular product. And finally comes how many people out of the overall customers have purchased it. So it gives you an idea that out of total customers, so what is the total number of customers whose data we have? Let's say, for example, in descriptive statistics, we got it. So total we have around 1,518 customers details. So this many customers data we have been given. Out of this total customers, what percentage of customers have purchased our bike or purchased our vehicle basically? So 57.4% of the people have purchased it, whereas around 42.6% of the people have not purchased it. That means these people under this not purchased category, they have come to your showroom, they have consulted the sales executive, they have taken the complete information, but even after collecting the entire information, maybe they would have felt that maybe I don't they would have not liked this bike, so they would have dropped the idea of purchasing this bike. So this is how basically your visualization helps you in understanding the data better. So as I was telling you, visualization will actually give you very clear idea of what sort of a data you are dealing with. So these information will help you understand so many such things basically. So you will have to understand each and every aspect here. So once this is done, basically for this particular data, whenever I have to perform a particular, run a particular algorithm for model building. Now, currently this data, if you can see, this data is in a different format. Like for example, if you can see, all this data are in categories basically. So all these are in categories. So if at all, if they are in categories like this, and if at all, if I give the same data for building a model, the model will try to perform some mathematical operations where these words cannot be taken into a mathematical operation. So what I would like to do is I would like to convert these categorical data into numbers. So I will try to highlight them by giving a label for them. Like for example, wherever I have male, so I'll just label it by 1. So if it is 1, the model will understand that it is male. If it is, let's say, 0, the model will understand it as female. So like that, for all of these categories, I'll try to label them with numbers, right from 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, based on that. If at all, if there are only 2 categories, it will automatically like give the label as 0 and 1. So 0 will be given for one category, 1 will be provided for another category. Similarly, in any of the particular column, if I have more than 2, 3 specific categories, according to them, the numbers will be allotted automatically, so that it will be easy for performing my math applications while running my problem statement or building a predictive model. So for doing that, in this particular stage itself, in the data pre-processing itself, I'm converting my data from categorical to kind of a continuous by labeling them. That process is called as encoding basically. So encoding is a procedure where you will try to label the data, where it will try to convert a data from a categorical to a numerical form basically. So I'll try to run this and I'll show you how the data looks like. Now just see, wherever I had male, I have this particular library has automatically changed it as 1. So like this, for each and every single category, I have given a label based on the numbers. So this will help in further math analysis, calculation which are there. So once I have transformed the data like this, then I'll come for relationship study. Now, ideally, the relationship study for a categorical data should be done in a different form. That is, we have to perform some, statistical analysis like a chi-square test, specifically to understand the relation between categorical data. But usually, if it is a continuous data, we can perform a correlation basically in order to understand the relationship study. So I'm just showing you how the procedure of correlation study will happen basically. So I'll try to run a correlation study here. So this tells me what is the relation between my, variables which are there. So here you should clearly identify that if at all, if my problem statement given by the particular client, if at all, if they are asking us to predict whether a particular customer is going to purchase my vehicle or not, they are indirectly asking us to predict the response of a customer, whether they would be purchasing the product or they would be not purchasing the product. So here my response in the data will be my target variable, which I am going to predict with the help of all these independent variables which I have. So when it comes to relationship study, I have to check what sort of relationship these other variables are having with my target variable. In order to understand that, we perform a correlation study basically. Whereas here it gives me a particular list of data, but here it looks somewhat very difficult to understand. So I'll try to build a visualization for that as well, so that we can understand the same thing in a better manner. Now, so how do you read this correlation basically is you have a scale here. So if at all, if it is having a light pink color, that means the correlation is very high. If at all, if it is having a blue color, that means that particular thing is having a very less correlation. How do you read this basically? So I said your target variable being response, you should compare that response with all the other independent variables. So how do you compare here to understand the relation is you should take your response and compare with these variables which are here, that is response versus id. whereas ID is just a serial number, so I cannot, understand any relation there. Whereas response versus age, there is a negative correlation basically. Whereas response versus gender, there is a positive correlation, but very, very minimum positive correlation. Again, response versus occupation, whether based on occupation, people are really buying my bike. So there is just around 19% correlation for that. Similarly, coming to phone type, is it something like only if people are having a high-end phone, they are purchasing my bike? If they are not having a high-end phone, they are not purchasing my bike. So in order to understand that correlation, there is negative correlation. There is no such specific correlation which is identified here. Similarly, coming to current bike, there is a negative correlation between response and current bike. And coming to response and relationship status, there is a bit of a, kind of a correlation which is there between these two. So like this, checking the correlation between your target variable and all the other variables are called as your relationship study. You should understand how is the relation, what is the association between the variables which you have and their responses basically. So once you do this, then we will enter into the next stage, that is model building stage. So in this model building stage, so we call our target variable, that is response, as y, and all the other independent like variables as x variable here. So here I have separated everything. So, until now here I had all the data in one single, data frame. So I have separated my target variable separately. I'm calling it as, y, and all the other variables separately. I'm calling them as x basically. So here I'm trying to separate them because when we have to build a model, I'll have to first separate them. So I have separated them. After separating it, so I have to build a training and validating of data sets. So usually this entire data, I will try to split the data into something known as train data and a test data. So this is always very crucial or essential, because when you build a model, you will try to build a model only on a train data. And when you try to do the prediction, you will try to do the prediction on a test data basically. So in order to do that, whatever data which is given by my client, I'm trying to, split the data into test data and train data. So for doing that, this particular command will do that. Now, after executing this is where I come for model building. Now, I said for model building, your machine learning plays a very crucial role. Now, it uses some algorithm here. Now, what are those machine learning algorithms? There is something known as logistic regression. This is one machine learning algorithm which is used for model prediction. There is something known as decision tree. There is something known as random forest. Like this, there are multiple algorithms which are there, which can help you in, building a predictive model and giving you their predictions. Whereas here in this particular stage, I have considered only three as of now. So I'm considering these three, machine learning algorithms, and I'm going to check among these three machine learning algorithms, which particular algorithm is going to give a better prediction. Okay, so sometimes it may so happen that one algorithm may give better than other. So we'll have to cross check which is giving us the better result, which is giving us the least result. So, giving that, like understanding that is very, very important in the stage of model building. So I have, like by executing this, I'll build a model. Now see, once this is done, the model has got built, and now I have to check for the prediction. So checking the prediction, we will try to check the accuracy basically. Now, what do you mean by accuracy here? Accuracy is nothing but the correctness in the prediction. So if at all, if I take a machine learning algorithm called logistic regression, to what extent my logistic regression is giving me the correct predictions, that can be understood with this accuracy basically. So it is saying that my logistic regression, whenever it is trying to predict whether a customer who walks in, whether he is a genuine customer of buying my bike, or like whether he will purchase it or whether he will not purchase it, when my model is predicting that, it is saying that my model is only 74% correct. So it is giving me only 74% correct results, whereas it is giving me, rest all, it is giving me wrong results basically. The predictions are going wrong. Similarly, when I go with decision tree, my decision tree, it is trying to give me 73% correct result. whereas rest all, it is giving me wrong result. Again, coming to random forest, it is giving me only 76% correct result. Rest all, it is giving me wrong result. What I said, when you are building a model, some model may give you better results, some model may not give you better results. So it is always crucial to check which model is giving you good result, which model is giving you not so good result. So when I compare all these three, I can clearly see that my random forest comparatively it is giving me better results, because the correctness of the model predictions or the accuracy is comparatively high. So I can pick this random forest as one of the good algorithm here on this particular stage of model building, so that I can say that random forest is one machine learning algorithm which can give me a better result or better prediction. But again, I cannot conclude that here only. That is where I have to go to model evaluation. If you can remember, model evaluation, I said that this is a stage where it will tell you, should we accept this model? If at all, if it is giving 76%, is it okay? Should we accept this 76% or should we reject this 76%? This acceptance or rejection will always happen in this model evaluation. Now, there are multiple bit more complex techniques which are involved here. And because of certain time constraint, I cannot go completely in depth here. But again, as I was telling you, I'm trying to give an overview here. So once you understand that, in your model building stage, if this is giving you this result, so you'll come to model evaluation, you will try to cross check it. You will try to evaluate whether, if this is the result, can I accept this, or should I once again go back to my data collection stage or data pre-processing stage and check whether have I made any mistake, or the data which has been collected here, okay, the data which has been collected here, is this not sufficient in order to predict the target variable? Should I use some more data? Should I add some more information into the data, or have I made any mistake in data pre-processing basically? So you'll have to check that, and once again the entire stage flow will go like this. Once after doing that, if at all at your model building stage, if at all if it gives you a green signal, only then you will enter into model deployment, where you will try to provide this particular model to your client on a real time, so that your client can actually use this particular model on a real time for doing the predictions basically. So this is how basically a project life cycle will happen. But due to certain time constraint and certain things which were out of scope in this particular shorter time period, I may not didn't get any time specifically to go into depth of these things. But usually in project life cycle, you'll have to go through that particular depth, and you have to understand each and every single aspect which is there, because every single thing will tell so much about your model, and that will actually help taking lot of decision making. So this is how basically your entire project life cycle is gets executed basically. Now, going back to our data, so let's say I'll just take my PPT once again. So this is how basically it will happen. So I said that in the model evaluation at the stage there, if at all, if it is not accepted, you will once again go back to the data collection stage, or you will come back to data pre-processing stage. And once again, this cycle will go on, as a continuous process. So ultimately, whatever you are going to do in this particular stage should always reflect that it is solving your business problem, which is identified by your particular client. So this is how basically your project of a data science usually get executed or will work. And as I said, in that somewhere around 60 to 70% of your time will generally go only in this data pre-processing. Rest all, it is very very simple task. The model building, if you just it is just about 5% of your overall work, and evaluation again, it is just around 5% of your overall work, whereas major time you will try to spend in data pre-processing only. So this is about your data science project life cycle, okay, so which we are discussing. So anybody has any question here, you can ask me now. So if at all, if you have any questions, I think by now you would have got a brief idea. Okay, so you would have got a brief idea here. So any questions here, if you have, you can ask me, anybody. So anybody has any question, please you can comment it. Okay, I have a question here like, could you please share the case study with us that helps to get familiar with the syntax? Okay, definitely. We would like to provide you the link of this in our website so that you can go through and you can take the reference of these things. Okay, so it will be available soon. It will be posted in our website under webinar section. You can go through that basically. So overall, I would like to ask you people now, did you guys like those, like, in this initial stage when I asked you, some people said you are completely new for this particular data science field, and some said you had a bit of an idea. But at least now, did you get a brief idea or an overview of how this entire thing works? Okay, I have a question. Is it necessary to code testing in ML? When you say testing, you don't need a code testing basically. See, what happens is, like, specifically for ML in Python, you'll, like, for every single ML algorithm, you have a library. So that will automatically take care of entire coding part, but you will have to implement it in a proper manner. So if at all, if you are able to implement it, so it will automatically take care of the execution part. So you don't have to specifically test each and every single code of execution what is happening. But when you are implementing or when you are writing that initial kind of a code in Python, you should be a bit cautious, because lot many times, if you are not familiar with the syntax, you may face certain issues there. So you should be very careful with that. Okay. So any questions do we have, anybody? So what about others? Did you guys get a kind of a brief idea about this? Okay, that's pretty great. So I would like to ask you people, so how was the webinar? Like, did this webinar give you good information, good amount of information for the data science life cycle? So did you get a brief idea? Yes. Okay, very good. Okay, so I have got something like it was informative. Okay, I have got something like, okay, you understood it very well. Okay, pretty good. Okay. Okay, I have a question here. Can you give a roadmap to be a successful data scientist? What skills are mandatory? See, when you talk about skills, specifically in terms of data science field, there are multiple things which are there. Like, for example, firstly, see, as a data scientist, you'll have to, connect to database, get the data from the database. In order to do that, you should have skills like, let's say, SQL, that is SQL. You should be very good in SQL. You should be very good in MongoDB. So these are the major skills for, data extraction processes, which you should be having. And then once you know how to extract, then comes your data analysis. When it comes to data analysis, in terms of tools, if you talk, one tool which is commonly used is your normal Excel when your data is very small. So you should be good at data analysis when it comes to your Excel. And for bigger data and for larger data, you should use Python. So you should be very good in terms of Python. For like this, I'm telling it in terms of a tool basically. Whereas in terms of a knowledge, what knowledge you should have in order to do data analysis, building predictive modeling, and all that is, first thing, you should be very good at statistics. Because for any sort of a data analysis, since you will be dealing with the data, your statistics plays a very, very key role there. So you should be very good in terms of statistical part there. So only then you'll be able to understand specifically. If you remember in that particular script, I showed you that there was something like skewness. I said skewness, if at all, if the value of skewness is going beyond one, that will automatically impact the model performance. So in that is part of your statistics. So you should have every single idea upon even the small things which is there inside statistics, so that you can get a better overview of the insights. So apart from that, you should be good at linear algebra. You should learn something like machine learning, all the supervised and unsupervised machine learning. So once you learn all the supervised and unsupervised machine learning, basically you will be able to apply the same onto any given data. So now for any given data, any sort of a problem statement, if at all, if you follow the same procedure, you can you can use this procedure as a particular framework or set of rules, so that you can go step by step, look into each and everything and start working there. So once that is done, if you're good in, like if you have learned ML, that is machine learning, then deep learning is the next step, which is also expected by you. So you should have a good amount of ideology and knowledge upon deep learning as well, because lot many a times those problems which cannot be solved by machine learning, that can be solved by deep learning. So you should have a good amount of idea upon deep learning based algorithms, models and things. And also coming to visualization, see, your Python can give you good amount of visualization. Probably by now you would have understood to what level you can understand the data only through visualization. So but Python can give you better visualization to some extent, whereas if at all, if you want to go to the next level in visualization and understand better, always you should be having the skills upon Tableau and Power BI. So these two are the highly recommended skills specifically for data visualization, which helps you to understand the data with visualization to the core. You can actually understand each and every single things which is there in the data, through visualization. So that gives you a very good insight for the data. So these are some of the skills specifically required when it comes to making a career into data science. So once you have adapted these skills, that will automatically make you eligible for getting a job. And again, in the job, these things are the same thing which are expected by you, so accordingly you'll have to plan basically. So any other questions you have, anybody? Okay, so any more questions, if you have, you can ask me. So basically, if someone, okay, I have one more question. What are the career opportunities in data science? See, when it comes to career opportunities, one thing is like there are very much advantages here. The advantages to choose data science as a career is, one thing, data science doesn't expect you to come from any particular background. Okay, so the data science doesn't expect you that yes, you should be an engineer only, or you should be specifically coming from a computer science background, or you should be having a technical knowledge only, then you will be eligible. There is nothing like that. People coming from any given background can also make a career into data science. But only thing is like, do you have that required skill? Now what is that skill? Do you have a skill of SQL, Python? Do you know how to do data analysis? Do you know statistics? If at all, if you know these things, you come from any background, you can make a career into data science. Now if at all, if you are a fresher specifically and have to make a career into data science, I would always recommend, you cannot directly become a data scientist. So the roadmap for becoming a data scientist is, you should always target profiles like data analyst, or there are profiles like machine learning engineer. So you have to first target these profiles, work in these profiles for a couple of years, get experience, only then you can go ahead and become a full-fledged data scientist to the next level. So that is how you have to plan. Whereas even these these job profiles like data analyst, or let's say machine learning engineer, Python developer, Tableau developer, all of these requires the same skills. So if you start learning these skills altogether, so automatically you can start the career either as a data analyst or any related profiles into data scientist. Once you get a particular experience, you can become a full-fledged data scientist. And here, one more advantage of data scientist field is like this data science is there in every field. It is not like it is there only in IT sector, software field, or only there. You take any give, you name a industry, you have data science there. Like you talk about healthcare industry, even hospitals, they have data scientists. They try to predict a lot of things like whether a particular patient, do they have cancer or do they have a particular disease or not. They'll try to build a predictive model which can predict that. So similarly, you take automobiles. So one example we saw now, which uses to predict whether a customer will buy a particular vehicle or not. You take banking, you take insurance, they build predictive models for predicting whether a particular customer can be considered as a target customer or whether he or she is going to purchase our like products relating to bank or insurance. So there is a huge scope basically. So you can get into any field, like any industry, and in all the industry, you have data science. So there is a huge opportunity basically, if at all, if you have to choose. But only thing is like you should have a proper learning path. You should have a proper guidance, proper learning path, proper mentor. This is very, very important. Until and unless you don't have a mentor who can actually guide you to take you through a particular direction, it so happens that online, it so happens that you have so much of material which you can read, but when you don't have a direction where to start, how to go step by step, what is the point in having so many? So always you should have someone who can guide you in that particular aspect. So that is how basically it will be. Okay, so like that, Anshu, for answering your question, there is a huge opportunity. And if at all, if you feel like targeting them, you have to target basically. But you have to start learning the aspects currently and you can start. And Jim, you have a question. How can I set up a model to retrain itself after deployment? See, if at all, if you have to set up a deployment, like retrain the model after deployment, so automatically there is a particular procedure for that. Like, but one thing is like when you deploy the model on a real time, it is completely wrong that you will again come retrain the model. Whatever retraining of your model, if you're trying to do, okay, that should always happen, before going to deployment stage. Deployment stage is something where your product is fully ready and it is ready to execute. Like say, for example, I'll give you a simple example. I'll take a, let's say, example of, let's say, Tesla. Now, let's say Tesla is a company who manufactures, electric cars basically. Now, let's say that you are saying to your customer that you have sold your car. After selling your car, let's say after customer have purchased it, after purchasing it, again you are asking your customer that if at all if you get any sort of a problem, so again come back to me. Again, I'll try to check what is the problem, and again I'll give the car back to you. Now, do you think will that be acceptable in a real time? If at all, if you're trying to like manufacture a car and give it to your customer, it should be completely ready without any flaws. Similarly, the same thing is required even in this particular field. When you are trying to things, so it should be completely ready and only then you should deliver it to the model. Whereas when it comes to loop, yes, you can do that. You can create loops in such a way that it will automatically try to build the model. It will try to evaluate. In that evaluation stage, if at all, if it feels that something is not okay, so it should go back. You can automate that process, that automatically, instead of taking it to the deployment stage, you can take it back to the data pre-processing. Once again, you can check basically. You can automate that process. There are options for that. Usually a lot of companies try to automate these processes, like entirely it will take care on its own, so without less human intervention. So this is how basically it can be done. Okay, so Jim, I hope I answered your question. Yes, I have another question, like how do I learn this basically? See, when it comes to learning, there are multiple ways you can, read or you can learn it through multiple online sources. But the only problem with online sources is like you get too many of them that you don't get a proper direction to learn. So I would always recommend, if at all, if you have a plan for learning it in a structured manner, go through a particular guidance of someone. Or like when I say someone, either keep someone as a mentor, ask them how to do it, and start reading accordingly or preparing accordingly. Or better to join any particular institute where you get a structured way of learning, actually to get a meet a lot of industry people, take their guidance and do it. Okay, I have another question. Do business toys provide this kind of training? Yes. See, basically, business toys is particularly into providing, training towards, data science, where we try to upskill the knowledge level of the people, be it in terms of students or be it in terms of, let's say, the working professionals, to upskill themselves to make a career change, or to create a new career path basically. So in that case, if at all, if someone is really interested, you can reach out to business choice. You can first take a normal mentoring session. Usually you can first you can have a clear mentoring session, one-on-one mentoring session, where you will completely get the guidance of how it is, what it is, whether you will be able to take it, whether it is a right path for you to choose. After having a mentoring session, you can actually take a call whether you would like to go with it or not. So like that you can decide and you can do this. So I hope with this I have given you maximum information, and I believe all of you have understood and you have liked our webinars. So if at all, if you like our webinars, please like it and share it so that other people can also get maximum information about this. So finally, thank you so much. So this is my contact details. If at all, if you have any specific queries relating to careers or anything specifically, if you have, you can always contact me, so that I would be always available. So if at all, if there is a genuine concern where you would like to shape your career and things. So this is about it. So thank you so much all of you for joining us in webinar. So the response was very good. So I would, say all the best for all of you for your further careers, for making a career into data science. So see you all. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Thank you.